Yo guys, what's up? It's your boy TRUEDBZ back with another review video. But this isn't a normal review. This is the finale in this series of reviews going through the Sly Cooper franchise. In today's video, I will be reviewing Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. The main topics of this review will be general information, gameplay, game modes, visuals, audio, and ending with my overall opinions and rating of the game. Before we get into today's topic, please hit the like and subscribe button at the end if you enjoyed the video. It does wonders for my channel and helps me stay motivated to create more content like this. Also, be sure to check out my links below. In the description are my links to my Twitter and Twitch, my channel artist page bossumans on Twitter and TikTok where he posts his artworks and commissions, and my playlists are there as well to provide you with more of my content. With all of that out of the way, let's get into today's review. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is a stealth action platformer, available on only PlayStation 3 natively, but is playable through the PlayStation Plus gaming streaming service on a PS4 and PS5. The game was developed by Sanzaru Games, published by Sony Computer Entertainment, released on February 5th, 2013, and sold an estimate of 230,000 to 550,000 copies. The goal of the game shares the same formula as the previous two games. Using an episode-based gameplay loop, the player must complete missions around the episode's hub world with the Cooper gang to set up for the final heist, that most of the time ends with a final encounter with the episode's main antagonist. Each episode has a mission average of 7, and the mission minigames are plentiful with 3 types of hacking minigames, RC vehicles, rhythm games, and more. The base controls carries over from Sly 2 and Sly 3 into a mixture of the two. Sly's triangle attack is kept from Sly 3, but it works similarly to Sly 2's spin attack, where you have to hold the button to perform the attack, which also can be upgraded later. Bentley still retains his wheelchair-bound abilities like the hover pack. Also, thanks to his upgrades since Sly 3, he now has mechanical arms attached to his chair that allows for a variety of actions, most notably easier pickpocketing and bomb throwing. Murray is very similar to his Sly 3 counterpart. Punching, stomping, and carrying objects all works the same. Before we move on, I want to talk about how the game handles power-ups. Most are more powerful versions of base abilities, but there are some notable standouts like Sly's rail sprint, Bentley's bomb kick, Murray's juggernaut throw, and Carmelita's super jump. The power-up meter, now called Cooper Focus, got completely reworked to be more of a single cooldown system rather than the power-up specific meter system. The last big change control-wise is the new gadget menu, where each character outside the Cooper ancestors has access to 5 different gadget modes. I will elaborate later on this mechanic, as it adds lots of variety and gameplay. The difficulty is nothing to write home about, since the Sly series is overall an easy series of games, and Sly 4 continues this trend. I guess the only thing that would be difficult is 100% completion, since there are a lot of collectibles and the game does a very poor job letting the player know where to find them. But if you're following a guide, then 100% is not a problem. Progression is the same as Sly 2's approach, with having the story be the main mode with optional collectibles sprinkled throughout the hub worlds. The clue bottles return from their absence in Sly 3 and works the same as Sly 2, where you collect 30 clue bottles in the hub world. Afterward, you can gain access to the vault. Hub world treasures also return, but with some changes. Firstly, there is 12 of them you can find instead of 3 per hub world. Secondly, every treasure now has a timer, so you need to be fast and know a good route to bring them back to the safe house in time. Thirdly, some treasures are hidden away behind platforming or obstacles, so you'll need to complete them first before getting to the treasure. And lastly, each treasure you bring back can now be viewed in the safe house, and some are references to other Sony properties and previous Sly games. The last collectibles are the Sly Masks. These are hidden Sly emblems that can be found in both the hub worlds and in specific missions. The Sly Masks are the reason why I said you're gonna need a guide for 100% completion, because unlike the clue bottles and the hub world treasures, where they're easy to find and has sound and visual cues to let you know when one is nearby, the Sly Mask has nothing in game to let you know that you're nearby one. Heck, the player can unlock a radar to find clue bottles, and they're the easiest collectible to find. The only way to know whether you got all the Sly Masks is to look in the episode select menu, but it doesn't show you where they are in the hub world or what mission they're hiding in. Each collectible does give you a reward. The clue bottles give you access to the episode's vault where you can unlock a power-up. The hub world treasures give you coins when returned to the safe house, but also if you complete all 12 treasures, you unlock an arcade machine that is one of Bentley's hacking minigames. The Sly Masks unlock various cosmetics like skins for the Cooper Gang. The unique mechanics in Sly 4 are twofold, with the addition of new characters and the new gadget grid. Let's start with the characters. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time introduces Sly's ancestors as playable characters. Ryuichi Cooper, Tennessee Kid Cooper, Bob Caveman Cooper, Sir Galeth Cooper, and Salim Al-Kupar. All the Coopers outside of Bob share Sly's base abilities like climbing, walking on ledges, the ninja spire jump, and the rail walk and rail grind, which has certain implication timeline-wise. Bob plays more like Murray due to the fact that he's a really big Cooper, so agility isn't in his moveset. Each Cooper ancestor has a special technique that makes them unique. Ryuichi Cooper is the perfect choice for the player's first playable Cooper ancestor, as his special technique, called the Leaping Dragon, is easy to use and fast-paced. While on a ninja spire point, Ryuichi can directly jump to any place marked by the Thieving Opportunity aura. Ryuichi also has the ability to run by nearby enemies without being detected, and Sly can also learn this technique later on in the game. Tennessee Kid Cooper is the most unique Cooper ancestor. Not only does he have a special technique, but he also has a completely different combat style than any other Cooper ancestor. Tennessee can use his Cooper cane as a 6-shot revolving rifle, leading to a third-person shooting playstyle. His special technique is Crackshot mode, where he uses his Cooper focus gauge to slow down time to aim and lock on up to 6 targets. When lock-on is successful, he auto-shoots all targets that were marked. Bob Caveman Cooper is the weirdest Cooper, as he doesn't fit the usual mode that most Coopers fall into, due to the fact that he's a very large raccoon, so he relies more on his strength rather than precise agility. Bob's special technique is that he's an efficient climber. He can climb for far distances while being able to jump and break obstacles. He can also use his Cooper focus gauge to perform a roar to scare away enemies. Sir Galeth Cooper is unfortunately underrated among the other Cooper ancestors, but his gameplay is one of the most fluid and satisfying. His special technique is called the Catapult Crash, where he can latch onto a hook and use his sword to break obstacles while launching great distances due to his larger than average Cooper cane. The levels that feature Sir Galeth uses his technique well, but I wish there was more. Also, he can use his Cooper focus gauge for a shield bash ability, but it doesn't shield him from damage and does the same damage and knockback as a normal cane swipe. Salim Al-Kupar has my favorite special technique called the Climbing Cobra. He can climb ropes, chains, and poles with blistering speeds, and he can chain multiple climbing cobras very quickly together, similar to Ryuichi's Leaping Dragon and Sir Galeth's Catapult Crash. Additionally, he can use a magic carpet to glide short distances, similar to Sly's paraglider. With the new characters out of the way, let's jump to the gadget grid. The gadget grid is available to Sly, Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita. Pressing and holding L2 gives you 5 different gadget modes to choose. Sly's gadget grid gives him access to his different costumes that all have unique abilities. For example, Sly's samurai costume is immune to fire damage and can reflect fireballs, while his Arabian thief costume can slow down time and has a giant sword to break more durable objects. Bentley's gadget grid changes his bombs and sleep darts to have certain effects. His default mode is explosive ammo, dealing high damage and knocking small enemies back, while his confusion ammo makes enemies dizzy, leaving them open for you to run away or attack. Murray's gadget grid affects his punches by giving them special properties. The Fists of Flame increases his punches' damage, allowing him to defeat enemies very quickly, while the Licks of Lightning gives his punches a stunning effect, leaving enemies open for more attacks. Carmelita's gadget grid transforms her shock pistol ammo. Charge Shot allows you to charge up a shock bullet that one-shots any enemy, while the Triple Shot gives you 3 shock bullets per shot. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time only has one game mode, that being the story. It does have a multiplayer game, but is so negligible that I won't do a multiplayer segment. The multiplayer game is just table tennis between Sly and Bentley with no special gimmicks or even other playable characters. On the bright side, each episode does have an arcade machine that you can unlock and play one of 3 hacking minigames. That also has a Sly mask hidden inside, so you'll need to complete them for the 100% completion. The story of Sly 4 is the most controversial aspect of the game, due to 3 main factors. Number 1, the character writing, number 2, how time travel is done, and 3, the ending. But before I talk about that, I'll do a basic plot synopsis. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time begins nearly a year after the events of Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. Sly is currently in a relationship with Carmelita after faking his amnesia. Bentley and Penelope developed a time machine, and Murray began his career in the demolition derby. After being retired for so long, Sly begins planning to steal from a criminal who owns a museum filled with stolen goods. When Sly was about to start his plan, Bentley shows up and tells Sly he needs his help. Sly, Bentley, and Murray meet up at their old safe house, and Bentley tells them what's going on. After the disappearance of Penelope, the techniques and stories within the Thieves Raccoonus was disappearing, meaning someone was changing and erasing the history of the Cooper clan. Now that the time machine is finished, Sly, Bentley, and Murray must travel back in time to help the Cooper ancestors and stop whoever's changing Cooper history. Majority of the episode's plot going forward is the Cooper gang travels to a certain point in time, rescues the current Cooper ancestor, figures out who is the episode's antagonist and what their plan is. The Cooper gang completes missions to thwart the antagonist's plans, leading to the heist where they confront and defeat them, but losing the Cooper ancestor's cane in the process. The Cooper gang then calls Dimitri on updates to the Thieves Raccoonus, and he tells them what Cooper ancestor needs their help next. With some twists and turns, the plot is very simple and easy to follow. Now let's talk about what makes this game's story so controversial. First up is the character writing. The main trio retains their main personality traits, but Sly 4 introduces certain aspects that I find troublesome, but there is some good things here as well. Sly's new direction of being more sarcastic and witty leads him to telling jokes and not taking things seriously towards his allies and enemies. For the most part, it works when the jokes get responses from the Cooper gang members and his ancestors. Although it can become distracting when antagonists are trying to be intimidating, but Sly just shrugs them off. This is a rarity because when his gang or ancestors are in trouble, he gets focused at the task at hand. Also, he has awkward moments of jealousy when it comes to his ancestors interacting with Carmelita, but once again, this is very rare, but it's still out of place. Speaking of Carmelita, the relationship between Sly and Carmelita is interesting in this game, and is honestly my favorite aspect of the story, but more specifically from Carmelita's side. When it comes to Sly and how he tries to repair his relationship with her, we never see the conversation where they finally come together and talk things out. From Sly's side, after he fails to talk to her twice, he gives up completely and never has to confront what he did was wrong. I'm not a fan of how the story sees Carmelita as unreasonable because she was hurt due to Sly lying to her, which shouldn't be the case. To end Sly's segment with more of a controversial take, unlike most people who have played and reviewed this game, I don't believe it's unreasonable to think that, in Sly's words, the old itch came back and I knew I needed to pull a heist. Taking into the fact that Sly had been a thief for literally 99.99% of his life and only stopped recently while having all of his memories intact because his amnesia is fake, we also know that stealing things and the chase from Carmelita and or the police gives Sly a type of dopamine and excitement. So seeing him in Sly 4 give in to his thieving nature is not out of character, but makes Sly more relatable and interesting, because after the events of Sly 3, where he thought all he wanted to do was be with Carmelita, it turns out that he wants to do that and still be a thief. It's a shame that the game never elaborates on this aspect of Sly's character, but I believe that this plot point had potential and was not lazy writing. Bentley feels more like himself from the previous games, but if I had to nitpick, he does share a flaw similar to Sly, where he is more witty than previously. But this only happens in conversations with the Cooper gang, where they bounce off each other, leading to fun dialogue. So it's not distracting like Sly can be when he does the same with his enemies. Bentley has a mini character arc during episode 4, where Penelope is the antagonist. And honestly, there's not much to talk about here, because it's just a worse version of his arc in Sly 2. After it's revealed that Penelope is the Black Knight, and gave up Bentley's plans of the time machine to La Paradox, Bentley hides in his shell and is emotionally scarred, but does show up after Sly battles Penelope and helps take her down. During the ending cutscene of episode 4, we hear that this experience changed Bentley, but his demeanor from episode 1 to episode 5 is literally the same, so his character arc doesn't hold much weight. Like, compare his change in demeanor in episode 1 to episode 7 in Sly 2 to his change in episode 1 to episode 5 in Sly 4, like they're night and day different. I'll talk about Penelope later, but this was such a wasted opportunity. Penelope as a villain had so much potential for both Bentley and Penelope's relationship, but both characters were so undercooked in this episode. Bentley overall in the game is good and very similar to Sly 3, but episode 4 feels like a complete waste of time for both Bentley and Penelope. Murray is very odd in this game because throughout most of the story he's fine, but in episode 3 he gets depressed because there is a mission he can't complete, but the one who can complete it is someone he trained to do that very task. This feels so out of place because yes, we know Murray takes his role as the muscle of the team very seriously, but him getting upset about a task that he was never good at to begin with is so weird. I feel like the writers put this in to give Murray some story relevance outside of just being the strong guy, but he really didn't need to go through a character arc as he went through plenty in the previous 2 games. I definitely feel like Murray got the short end of the stick when it comes to the main trio, because at least what they tried to do with Sly and Bentley has writing potential and sometimes did succeed, but with Murray, they really had no idea what to do with this character. Carmelita, in my opinion, is the best written character in the game. I really enjoy her character arc of coming to terms with Sly's thieving nature and his need to protect his family legacy, but now as his partner and not as his enemy. Carmelita starts in the series as a reoccurring antagonist with flirty undertones with Sly. During the final episode of each game in the trilogy, Carmelita assists Sly in taking down the main antagonist due to circumstance, not because of anything having to do with Sly's personal side of the story. In Sly 1, she helps Sly due to the fact that he saved her from Clockwork, and also because his death ray was a major threat. In Sly 2, she assists the Cooper gang in stopping Clockla because her goal is to become immortal, which would be a world threat. Also, this plan would send all of Paris' residents into a rageful hypnotic state. In Sly 3, she battles Dr. M's forces because she was in pursuit of Sly. And after Sly's fight with Dr. M, she tries to arrest both of them, but Sly gets in the way of Dr. M's attack and she finishes him off. From Carmelita's perspective, she doesn't have the knowledge that we do about these villains and their meaning towards Sly. She just sees criminals fighting each other, and she helps for the benefit of her career and the world. The fact that she is working alongside the Cooper Gang in Sly 4 gives her a new perspective because now she understands how the Cooper Gang operates, who they're fighting against, and why this matters to Sly. The Cooper ancestors help her as well see that not all criminals are bad people, and some of them can have a heart of gold. The first third of the story, she acts antagonistic towards Sly specifically for very valid reasons. But as a side note, that detail is very important, that she treats Bentley, Murray, and Sly's ancestors kindly, which shows her capacity to grow, as she doesn't see all criminals as cut from the same cloth. At the second third of the story, she finally understands the gravity of the situation, and she decides to stay and help the Cooper Gang take down Le Paradox. Even though after the time machine is fixed, she could go back to the present day. Carmelita's arc in this story is so good in my opinion because this experience widens her horizon on Sly, the Cooper Gang, family legacy, and the wide scope of the criminal world. The writing for the Cooper ancestors is perfect. Every Cooper ancestor feels unique, and they all banter well with the Cooper Gang. Ryuichi Cooper is calm and honor-bound with a little bit of overconfidence sprinkled in. Tennessee Kid Cooper is enthusiastic and a thrill-seeker with a sharp eye for shooting. Bob Caveman Cooper is surprisingly socially intelligent and cooperative, also very adaptable. Sir Gallus Cooper is overly dramatic but good-willed who values the Cooper legacy very seriously, although boastfully. Salim Al-Kupar has become lazy due to his older age, but he does care about his comrades. He is also very critical of others, and has a big appetite. The last set of characters I'll cover are the antagonists, and they are a mixed bag. I really enjoyed Toothpick and Miss Decibel as villains. They are entertaining to watch, have plans that make sense, and are good foils to their respective episode's Cooper ancestor. I greatly dislike El Jefe and the Grizz because El Jefe's motivation is boring and he's an idiot with nothing but a cool design to his name, while the Grizz is a badly executed black rapper stereotype while having a grand plan that makes sense on the surface, but he flip-flops his plans and motivations multiple times through the episode that by the end I didn't really care. Penelope and Le Paradox are villains that could have worked, but due to poor writing they failed. Penelope could have worked as a surprise villain, but the game makes it painfully obvious that she is a villain due to her lack of presence throughout the first half of the game. And then in episode 4, Bentley suddenly starts worrying about her again, like, yeah sure, she surely won't show up in this very specific episode. Heck, even her mech has a logo of her face on its chest in the opening cutscene of the episode. Her motivation for betraying the Cooper Gang sucks. The game frames it as she left Bentley because he was obsessed with Sly, but all he was doing was keeping the Thieves Raccoon safe and studying it. Outside of that, he was working with her to build the time machine. And with the information that was given to us, he wasn't neglecting her needs at all. Some people would try to justify this change in demeanor because of her time as the Black Baron, but she only became the Black Baron to work around the Ace's age restriction. Granted, she has done bad things in the past, like allowing her guards to beat people to near death if they broke her rules during the Aces competition, and she did cheat during the finals through trying to summon outside blimps to take out Sly. But none of these past actions reflect her change in Thieves in time. The potential was there, but sadly, it didn't happen. The Paradox is a lame villain organization leader. He fails at all aspects. His design, while decent, doesn't give major villain vibes. His personality is just a jealous brat who has beef with Sly's whole family because of what happened to his father. His motivation doesn't make any logical sense. Le Paradox isn't mad that his father was arrested, making Le Paradox an orphan, which would be a compelling motivation to hate the Coopers. I mean, it still wouldn't justify risking traveling back in time to change history, but at least it's something understandable. But no, he's mad at the Coopers because his father was outdone by Sly's father and he gained legendary thief status for his time, while Paradox's father got thrown in jail, losing credibility. So Paradox is mad at Sly and his entire family because of status. Which is really dumb because within the same cutscene that explains Paradox's motivation, it's shown that after he got arrested and released, he used his prison contacts to set up major thieving heists all over the world while staying in the positive light with the public, making his status as a thief have even more influence than his own father and maybe even Sly's father. His own motivation conflicts with his actions. His time travel plan also doesn't make sense. His plan is that he wants to travel back in time to capture the Cooper ancestors and steal their Cooper canes, so that the Cooper's influence in history would no longer be relevant. I know the Cooper canes hold significant value to the ancestors, but what's stopping them from remaking the canes that were stolen? We know Tennessee replaced his dual Cooper cane pistols for the current Cooper cane rifle, and the rest of the Cooper canes are made of materials that are easily found within their respective time periods. Capturing the Coopers makes sense because if they're in prison, they can't complete the achievements that made them legendary in the present day. But why not just kill them after Paradox's gang got the canes? Erasing them from history would put even more of a spotlight on Paradox's family line, giving him more influence. We know that El Jefe, Toothpick, The Grizz, Penelope, and Miss Decibel had their setups in the Cooper ancestors' time period for multiple months up to a year because of guard interactions and conversations between the members. So why didn't they kill the Cooper ancestors after all that time? Thank you everyone for making it this far into the video. Just gonna take a quick break to do some shoutouts. First, shoutouts to my friends' channels. Please consider checking them out as they provide a variety of content, so at least one of them will have something that you'll enjoy. Second, if you live near the York, PA area, please head down to Ready Up Gaming Lounge. It's a place where gamers from every genre can come together and play in a comfortable and chill environment. They are open from 11 AM to 8 PM every day and hold dedicated events every week. For my channel's interest, they run Fighting Fridays, where for $5.30, you can play a multitude of fighting games with various players. They have big games like Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but they also have niche games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear Strive, Rivals of Aether 2, and more. Finally, shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You guys really make doing content fun and worth pursuing. Alright, back to the video. Time travel is such a nitpicky thing to get correct, so I won't rant about everything confusing about it in this game, but one thing I will bring up when it comes to the time travel is how people are able to traverse time. The way characters travel through time is through Bentley and Paradox's time machines, but both come from the same blueprints created by Bentley and Penelope, meaning both time machines work the same way. The time machines are able to travel through time by using an artifact from the time period you want to go to. I'm assuming that the artifact is used as a sort of timestamp, meaning the day it was fully created and recorded in history gives it a timestamp that the time machine can register and therefore travel to its time of creation. We see evidence of this fully through Bentley's time machine due to the fact that the dagger that was used to get to Ryuichi's time was broken apart by Carmelita, but in the time machine in the safe house we see that it was repaired, and the Cooper gang can still go back to Ryuichi's time to recruit him for the final mission, meaning that even though they repaired it at a different time with different materials, because it wasn't recorded in some way in history, it didn't change the timestamp of the dagger. And the paradoxes must work the same way because it came from Bentley's blueprints. Also, one of Paradox's guards drops a sheriff badge that the Cooper gang uses to travel to Tennessee's time period, proving he also needs artifacts to travel to a certain point in time. Additionally, Paradox owns a history museum filled with artifacts, so he can literally go anywhere in time. I have two major problems with this method. One, how are the Cooper gang and Paradox able to travel freely within the same time period if they use the same artifacts? Based on my assumption, if they use the same artifact to travel to the past, then they should arrive at the same time, because the artifact only has one creation timestamp. To explain what I mean, the Paradox must have used a different artifact to travel back in time to months before the Cooper Gang showed up in Ryuichi's time. The Cooper Gang uses a dagger to travel back, creating two timestamps. But at the end of the game, Bentley and Murray recruited the Cooper ancestors to assist them in taking down the Paradox. But if Bentley used the same dagger, wouldn't the timestamp bring them to before Ryuichi was freed from prison by the Cooper Gang, meaning he would have no clue what's going on and he would still have access to his cane? This point is very nitpicky due to the fact that the story never fully attempts to explain how time travel works and what can and can't happen when you travel back in time. So this point is a good question, but any attempt to answer it would be nothing but assumptions, and I've already made plenty already here. The second thing I want to bring up is the artifacts themselves. The story clearly states that to travel back in time, you need an artifact from the time period you want to go to. What that means is that the story gets creative on how the Cooper Gang gets from one time period to another. From the Paradox's side, this concept works well because he owns a history museum, so he can go to any time period he wants to. From the Cooper Gang side, the story justification for how the gang travels through time becomes more ridiculous as the story goes on. To travel to Ryuichi's time, the Cooper Gang steals an old ninja dagger from the present day, which makes sense. To travel to Tennessee's time, a random guard from Le Paradox's crew drops a sheriff badge that just so happened to be what they were looking for. Convenient plot point number 1. To travel to Bob's time, Bentley uses Murray's old necklace he got from the Guru, which honestly, given the scenario the gang was in at the time, I don't have a problem with this plot point, but convenient plot point number 2 is that Bob's time period was one of Le Paradox's targets. To travel to Sir Gallet's time, the gang uses the Grizz's crown after he was defeated by Murray, and like out of all the crowns in history, the Grizz's just so happened to be the one from Sir Gallet's time. Convenient plot point number 3. To travel to Salim's time must be the most convenient plot point number of all. Carmelita just so happens to smuggle a gold coin from Salim's time period. She did this so she could use the coin as evidence against Le Paradox, but if we were going to take this explanation seriously, one gold coin wouldn't be enough to bring down Le Paradox. The way characters travel through time is very unique and fits the motif of the Sly Cooper series, that being stolen artifacts and thieves. But the way the writers chose to explain how the Cooper Gang traveled from time period to time period was honestly disappointing and could have worked if slight changes to the plot occurred. Sly's Forest ending is one of the most infuriating endings I have ever experienced in any story. To recap, Bentley and Murray alongside the Cooper ancestors manages to retrieve the stolen Cooper canes, and by doing that, the timeline begins to refix itself. The Cooper Gang then corners Le Paradox and he accidentally rips open a time stream hole in his blimp, which will absorb the blimp and everyone on it. Sly gives chase to Le Paradox so that he doesn't escape. Sly defeats Le Paradox in a fight, and Le Paradox is now hanging off the blimp. He tricks Sly into helping him and steals Sly's paraglider, leaving Sly stuck on the blimp. The blimp then disappears, and after Le Paradox is thrown in prison, Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita start looking for clues on where Sly is. Bentley can't use his time machine to find Sly because it requires an artifact to use as a timestamp, and he would have to know where Sly is to use it. The ending cutscene leaves with Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita sad that Sly is gone, but optimistic that they will find a way to bring him home. This ending on its own, while sad that Sly isn't with his friends and partner, still ends on an optimistic note, and leaves with a mystery that can lead up to a follow-up story. The secret ending shows Sly in ancient Egypt surrounded by parts of the blimp staring at the Sphinx. The secret ending ruins what mystery the writers could have had for a follow-up story, now that we know where Sly is objectively. Adding on to this leaves players with a sense of unsatisfactory because after Sly went through all of that to save his family's history, the reward he gets is being lost in ancient Egypt with no current way or hope to save himself. The secret ending always manages to anger me so much because we know where Sly is and that he is alive, negating any mystery and or freedom to explore time concepts in the next game if it ever happens. Not that an ancient Egypt story couldn't work in Sly 5, with Sly Tutankhamun Cooper assisting Sly, but now the player knows where Sly is, and the secret ending gives no hint of how Sly can fix this situation. It leaves a bad taste to those who stuck with the series for a long time, because we know that Sly, after going through the events of Sly Cooper and the Thieves Raccoonus, Sly 2 Band of Thieves, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, and Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, it all ends with him being stuck in the past with no way home, and that's depressing to fans of the series. Yes, I know that Sanzaru Games planned an Ancient Egypt DLC post-launch, but it was cancelled by Sony due to low sales. But here's a question. Why write a cliffhanger ending to a story without 100% confirmation that you can live up to that expectation? With all the interviews I've seen, none of the developers confirmed that the DLC was 100% promised from Sony's side, regardless of post-launch support and sales. From what I can guess, Sanzaru Games assumed that the game would do well enough so they could continue making Sly Cooper content, and they assumed that they could convince Sony to have them make DLC content, so they left the ending wide open for several more time travel stories to be told. On the surface, this makes sense. Sly Cooper is a well-liked franchise, and the previous developers got a trilogy from this series. The problem is that at the time, Sony platformers weren't doing great sales-wise, and the time span from Sly 3 to Sly 4 is 8 years, which is a really long time in the gaming space, meaning most people lost interest in the Sly Cooper franchise at this point. In addition, with the mixed reception Sly 4 got on release, it makes sense that Sony wouldn't want to put more resources into a franchise that underperformed. Sanzaru Games really doomed themselves because now they are solely responsible for upsetting a vast majority of the Sly Cooper fans. Even if they enjoyed Sly 4's story, gameplay, visuals, music, etc., most of that doesn't matter because the story ends on an unconclusive, unsatisfying ending, leading to frustrations from even the biggest fans of Sly 4. And Sanzaru themselves can't fix it because they need approval from Sony and countless hours, months, even years to develop a Sly Cooper game worthy of restoring the trust within the fandom. The graphics holds up well for a PlayStation 3 game. I love the new art style of Sanzaru's version of Sly's world. The face and body animations are way more expressive. The environments are so colorful, and the hub world retains the landmark style of map design, making it easy to always know where you are at all times. All the main characters got slight redesigns. Sly's outfit is basically his Sly 1 outfit, but modern. As a personal note, I love Sly's backpack, and I'm sad they got rid of it during Sly 2 and Sly 3, so I'm really happy it's back. His facial features also got updated to be more furry, just like Carmelita as well. Bentley got some good changes. His bike helmet from Sly 3 is replaced with a casual safari type hat. His wheelchair got replaced with an even more advanced version with fully mechanical arms and a rocket booster on the back. Murray's biggest change is his overall body shape. His design in the trilogy was more even around with a big head, big chest, big belly, and medium-sized arms and legs. In Sly 4, he's more bottom heavy. His belly is definitely bigger than his chest and his head got smaller. In terms of his outfit, it's a good redesign. You can tell his design was modeled after racers because of his new mask, scarf, and boots, which reflects his time as a racer and demolition derby driver. Carmelita overall shares the same vibes as her Sly 3 counterpart, but her shirt changed in length and her pants got changed into a skirt. And just like Sly, her fur is more detailed and she has eye mascara now. All the new characters have great designs. The Cooper ancestors represent their time period well, while still looking natural next to the Cooper gang. The new villains, while not my favorite group design-wise, are still recognizable among the vast amount of villains in the series. The last thing I'll bring up here are the animated cutscenes. I love this new style of animation. The trilogy stands out for its more comic style animation, which made it stand out compared to other platformers at the time. Sly 4 goes more the modern 2D animation route, and it surprisingly works great with the new designs. The animated cutscenes still keeps the spirit of the trilogy in its presentation as it replicates episodes for an animated show. The performance of this game has serious issues. Not to the point where the game is unplayable, but it can affect your gameplay and enjoyment. Sly 4 does have various amounts of frame drops when too many effects are on screen, when using certain power-ups, and when traveling through certain parts of the hub worlds. The game has long load times, especially when booting up the game for the first time. I average around 20 seconds to a minute and a half of load time, which isn't a problem for me personally, but it can affect your enjoyment if you die in a level and it has to reload everything all over again. The sound effects did get overhauled, but it still sounds good. The hit sounds from combat feels punchy, the coin sounds are great, the musical notes from doing thieving actions return, the background sound effects and the environments got majorly upgraded from the trilogy. Sly 4 has my favorite soundtrack in all the Sly games, and is probably one of my favorite soundtracks in all of gaming. There is no music in this game that I don't love. The dynamics of the music during cutscenes and the animations really add to the entertainment and tone. Here are my top 5, but honestly picking these 5 was so hard. The voice actors once again brings their A-game. The Cooper gang is still voiced by Kevin Miller, Matt Olson, and Chris Murphy, and are still fantastic even after an 8-year gap between games. Their witty and Brotherhood-like dialogue is still great and entertaining. Keeping to tradition, Carmelita got a new voice actress, but unlike the others, I believe Grey Delisle is the perfect voice for Carmelita. She brings the sass, has various emotional depth, and has a strong Spanish accent. It's literally perfect. The Cooper ancestors, Ryuichi, Tennessee, Bob, Sir Galeth, and Sleem, are voiced by Steve Blum, Sam Riegel, Patrick Sees, Yuri Lowenthal, and Brian George, respectively. All of them do a fantastic job bringing these diverse characters to life. The antagonists, El Jefe, Toothpick, The Grizz, Penelope, Miss Decibel, and Le Paradox, are voiced by Nolan North, David Lodge, Fred Tescoye, Annette Totongai, and Elisa Jane Schneider, respectively. They work well with the characters they play, and when they do interact with the Cooper gang and the Cooper ancestors, it's entertaining. With all of that out of the way, let's jump into my strengths and weaknesses. The art style is a major upgrade from the trilogy. Everything has more detail from the character models, environments, animations, character designs, and even the UI and menus. The soundtrack is my favorite in the series, and that's a real feat because Sly 3 was such a major upgrade from Sly 2, and Sly 4 comes in and blows all the previous games out of the water. When I tell you it was hard to make my top 5 list, I'm not joking. Every single musical note in this game was put together with such love and care and talent that it's rare for any game that I've played to top it. The gameplay still keeps that fluid flow of the previous games, and while the physics works slightly differently than in the trilogy, like how double jumps works and how combat feels a little bit heavier, it still feels like a Sly Cooper game. Also, with the new playable characters, new power-ups, a revamped gadget grid, and the various amounts of minigames, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is always a blast to play. And it would probably be my most played Sly game if it didn't come out 8 years after the trilogy and it wasn't still exclusive on the PS3 natively. The writing quality of Sly 4 varies greatly due to unexplained story details, weak character motivations, bland character arcs, and unexplored character perspectives. My Sly 4 story segment was way more in-depth than the previous ones from the trilogy games, because there's so many holes of inconsistency and missed opportunities. I hope if we get Sly 5 from Sanzaru Games, they take greater care with the story, because most fans of the Sly Cooper series, including myself, primarily fell in love with this franchise because of its characters and stories. The gameplay performance is a real issue that, once again, doesn't really matter to me because I've played and seen worse, but the consistent frame drops and the long load times will become a negative factor in your playthrough the longer you play it. The prologue in episode 1 doesn't have terrible frame drops, but once you get to episode 2 and beyond, during certain locations in the hub world, frame drops will become consistent and more distracting. The long load times are consistent throughout the whole game no matter what episode, so having to retry a mission after failure or loading the hub world after completing a mission will wear on you if long load times irritate you. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time's ending angers me so much that I don't want to re-explain myself, but I will say this: Sony and Sanzaru, please save Sly from ancient Egypt and leave the franchise on a satisfying and conclusive note. No sequel baiting with a time machine, and no leaving major plot points unresolved. Please. In comparison to other platformers released around Sly 4's release date, like Super Mario 3D World and Rayman Legends, Sly 4 got a decent reception from the wider gaming community, but most video game players wouldn't put Sly Cooper Thieves in Time as one of the classics. It's clear that the target audience of Sly 4 is fans of the Sly franchise, due to the fact that the characters make multiple references from events from the trilogy, and the idea of a game focused on playing as Sly's ancestors was an idea the fans were asking for. If a random gamer played Sly 4 without playing the trilogy, I think their enjoyment would be impacted. Similar to Sly 2, replayability beyond 100% completion doesn't really matter since the game doesn't change at all if you restart your playthrough. Maybe if the game had a mode where you could replay the story but with all your power-ups already unlocked could have added a reason to replay the game again, but as it stands, there's no benefit to replaying the game after 100% completion, especially because the episode select menu allows you to replay any mission after it's completed. My final rating of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is a 3 out of 5. For as much as I enjoy Sly 4 as a game, I can't ignore the objective problems with this game. If I was rating this based on my own personal enjoyment, it would easily be a 4.5 out of 5. But since this is a review, I have to be truthful about my rating, and 3 out of 5 is the best I can do with all the problems I've outlined in this video. Sly 4 does succeed in certain areas, like in visuals, audio, and gameplay. But this is a Sly Cooper game, and having these aspects be great can't carry a story with lots of missing potential, lots of performance issues, and a terrible ending. Sadly, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time didn't live up to many Sly fans' expectations. And even I, as a person that had Sly 4 as their favorite Sly game for a decent time frame, has to admit that there are plenty of shortcomings when it comes to this game. I honestly wouldn't recommend Sly Cooper Thieves in Time to anyone outside of fans of the series for two main reasons. Number 1, Sly 4 relies on the player knowing the events of the trilogy to understand the events happening in this story. And number 2, you can only get Sly 4 natively on PlayStation 3. You can get the game on newer PlayStation consoles through the PlayStation Plus online service, but I highly don't recommend you subscribe to it just for a Sly Cooper game. Before I go on to my personal story, I would like to cover an additional game that released next to Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, that being Bentley's Hat Pack. Bentley's Hat Pack is a side game that takes the Bentley hacking minigames from Sly 4 and expands upon it, adding lots of different levels and challenges to complete. This game has no bearing on Sly 4 story-wise, and it's just a fun little game for additional content. Personally, I think these hacking minigames should have been rewards in Thieves in Time for completing the clue bottles, hub world treasures, and slime masks, but Bentley's Hack Pack is a nice addition to the Sly Cooper franchise. My personal story with Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is that my opinion of Sly 4 changed dramatically throughout the years, and I only became confident to do this review series once I had a clear stance on this game in particular. Like I said before, there was a certain time frame where Sly 4 was my favorite game in the series. But when I saw Jay's review video called Why Thieves in Time was a Massive Disappointment, and Tactical Bacon Productions video called Why Sly Cooper Thieves in Time Flopped and Why We're Never Getting Sly 5, I became spiteful and hated everything to do with Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Now I want to make it clear that I don't blame either of these creators for my past view of the game, because I do believe they made good points against Sly 4's quality. Even though now years later I tried to rewatch those videos, but I couldn't do it because both videos are either overly dramatic about some of the points they made, or they never see any of the mistakes the devs made in good faith, especially Jay's video. After I came into terms years later about my true feelings about Sly 4, regardless of others' YouTube videos, I started to love Sly 4 again, but sadly not as much as my first playthrough. The game does have objectively bad issues, but now my enjoyment for Sly 4 never falters because I can see the love that Sanzaru put into this game. Recently, I've been rewatching lots of old Sanzaru dev interviews before and after Sly 4's release, and watching interviews with Kevin Miller and other voice actors within the Sly franchise, and it showed me that even though Sly Cooper Thieves in Time fumbled in certain areas, it was made with love from everyone involved. And now I truly believe that if Sanzaru Games got a second chance, they can make a Sly Cooper game to rival Sly 2 Band of Thieves, and even surpass it if they listen to healthy criticism that has been built over the past decade. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If so, please support the channel by hitting the like and subscribe button. Remember to check out my links in the description. And that's all I have for you today. So have a good evening everyone, and I will see you guys in the next review. Sayonara.